Okay, back to where we left off yesterday. We finished Mincha, we're about to start, we started the Dinam Maidiv. So you say, or Arvit, whatever you want to call it. So there's two aspects. There's Krishma of Maidiv and there's the Tefillah of Arvit, of Maidiv. So we learned, the Maidiv technically you could daven after Plaga Mincha, after an hour and a quarter of halachic hours before Shkia, if you daven Mincha before Plaga Mincha. And then you have the mitzvah Krishma, that's a separate mitzvah, or Sfira Sa'imer, that you have to daven later. We were explaining, I'm saying this because I want to continue with a certain din. We're explaining that the many shuls, they would daven Mincha and Ma'ariv together, like right before Shkia, right after Shkia, and the reason for that was it was difficult to get a minyan together. So there's an interesting din, which is a interesting aspect of Friday night davening, which is connected to during the week. In Shulchan Aruch it says that the shuls in the olden times were not necessarily in the city. They're a little bit outside of the city. So therefore there's a din in halacha, what happens if you finish Maidiv, it's already dark outside, let's say, and there's some person that's davening a little bit longer, you really should wait for him that he shouldn't have to walk home alone. Because at night, in those days, they didn't have lights, there were animals, robbers, whatever. So there would be actually a mitzvah upon people to wait for the person, some people at least, to wait for the person to finish Maidiv. What happens if the guy came very late to shul? Obviously he shows that he's going to be late and he doesn't care. So then halachically you wouldn't have to wait for him. But the Alter Rebbe says, Midas Chassidus, it's appropriate to wait for him anyway. So therefore, especially in the olden times, it was very difficult to get a minyan for Maidiv. If you'd have a mincha, people went home, they wouldn't come back for Maidiv, because again, they would have to walk in the dark, it wouldn't be safe, it would be problematic. So therefore, they were matter to daven mincha Maidiv together, but Krishma you have to do in the proper time. But that's why Friday night is an interesting thing, and as follows, to introduce it as follows. The Chazan repeats Shacharis, the Chazan repeats Mincha. By Maidiv, by Arvit, there's no repetition of the Shemoneh Esrei. So why isn't there a repetition of Shemoneh Esrei by Maidiv? So the reason why there's a repetition of the Chazan is for those people that didn't know how to daven. Don't forget, in the old times, many people were extremely illiterate. They have no schooling. They, worked on the farms morning to night. They barely knew how to read. Secondly, they didn't have printed Siddurim like we have now accessibility. So many people would just daven by heart if they knew the davening. Many people didn't know the tefillah by heart. So because the Shemoneh Esrei, the Amid, is the most important part, so the Chazan would repeat the Shemoneh Esrei. And then people that didn't know how to daven, they would listen word by word what the Chazan said, they would answer Amen, and then it was considered as if they davened the Shemoneh Esrei itself. What?
And it counts?
And it counts. But that was only for people that didn't know how to daven. Now why because of Shmei Koine, but the Gemara said that's only for somebody that didn't know how to daven. A person who knew how to daven couldn't listen to the Chazan. So now the question is, why does the Chazan daven privately first? If he's repeating it, if he's saying it out loud for everybody. So the answer is, the Hasdir is Tfilah, just to practice. To practice, the organizer should have, or be organized about being able to daven. By the way, there's another interesting thing off topic, that the Rebbe told the story a number of times, that when you have to say something in public, you have to look it over first. You have to look it over first. The Rebbe told the story then that the Rebbe Rashab was once in a different city, and he didn't expect to be called up for maftir, and they called him up for maftir. So before he went out for a few minutes to look over the Haftorah. The Rebbe Rashab, who generally had maftir every week, but and he definitely knew how to read Ivra, but because you're saying something in public, you have to make sure it's looked over properly, and you don't, from just knowledge of the past, you have an obligation actually to look it over. So the Chazan would actually daven the Shemoneh Esrei first in order to have the davening organized. Ma'ariv, one second. Ma'ariv is an argument in the Gemara between the Gamliel and Bishul, the Gemara in Brachas, whether you're obligated in Ma'ariv. Is it chova or is it reshus? So because in practical halacha, not real halacha, but in hypothetical halacha, Ma'ariv is optional. So if it's optional, there's no need for the chazan to repeat the Shemona Esrei, because if the people didn't know how to daven, so they didn't daven. They didn't have to daven it. Tefillah that you had to daven, so the Gemara instituted, the Chazal instituted repetition for those people. But if you didn't have to daven, if Ma'ariv is optional, so you don't have a repetition of the Shemona Esrei. What? Shacharit, you repeat it for those people that...
Is it the same reason?
Yeah, for the people that didn't know how to daven. Yeah. So nowadays, even it says in halacha, it's minig aviseinu, it's tradition. So even though everybody knows that you can have 100 tzaddikim, everybody knows that, you still, there's the inyan of chazaras hashas, of repetition of, but that's the origin of chazaras hashas for the people that didn't know how to daven. Says Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, even people that knew how to daven were yaitze with the chazan. But again, today people daven them by themselves. So that one second. So now we have Friday night. So Friday night after the Shemona Esrei, we say Vayechulu, and then we have a mini repetition. Then we say Mogen Avis, and then we have a say Novin Mechaseinu. That the Chazan basically Mogen Avis. Everybody says, but the Chazan says. So it's actually a mini repetition. If you look at it, it's a mini repetition. Why Friday night do we do a mini repetition? Because Friday night it's interesting. The reason, but you see how halacha cares about every individual Jew. Because Friday night we stole Ma'ariv to make it longer for the people that came late to be able to catch up. Why? During the week, they were able to go with candles or lights when they walked in the street at home, when it was dark. Shabbos, you can't have candles, you can't carry candles in the street. Lanterns, candles, whatever, but Shabbos you couldn't do it. So the Chazal said, we're going to make a mini repetition Friday night, that people that came late to shul Friday night, they should be able to catch up, but to stall Ma'ariv to make it longer, so we make a mini repetition for the Chazan to be able to, the people to be able to catch up to the Chazan.
Also, Rabbi, earlier to walk home. They should be earlier to walk home, like this would be easier for them if they really walk.
No, you're talking about davening earlier. I'm not talking about davening earlier. I'm talking about the mini repetition is to stall Ma'ariv, that people that came late to shul should be able to catch up, that they shouldn't have to walk home alone.
But do we have to say Magen Avis?
Everybody says Magen Avis. Okay, we're talking about the concepts. Now, there's another aspect. If you notice, in many Sidurim, during the week, after Nusach Ashkenaz, you have after Shem Esami Yisrael Lo'ad, they say Baruch Hashem La'elam Amin Va'amin. There's a whole, 2 pages that they say, a page and a half, whatever it is. And Friday night, they say V'shamru. After they say V'shamru. In Chabad, we don't say not Baruch Hashem Le'elam Amin V'amin and not V'shamru. And the Vilna Gaon also, by the way, didn't. There's a few things out there that the Vilna Gaon agreed to.
But it's in the Siddur, Rabbi.
Relax. So, in Chabad doesn't mean. What's the machlek? It's a halachic argument. The Gemara says there has to be smichas geula l'tefillah. You have to have the geula next to Shmones, next to tefillah. So in the morning you have Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael, and right away you know how to answer Amen. You have to start the Amida right away. You don't answer Amen, nothing. At night, the Gemara also says you have Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael. Okay, but we say Hashkiveinu. So the Gemara asks, why isn't Hashkiveinu a hefsek between geula and tefillah? So the Gemara says Shmira is part of geula. So it's really one continuation. So now the question is, the tefillah of Baruch Hashem Le'elam Amin V'amin, that page and a half, whatever it is, so it's a pashut, an argument in poskim, is it considered as a hefsek, is it separation between Gal Yisrael and the Shmones? Ashkeveinu, the Gemara says, isn't, There's a machlekes, Ibarach Hashem la'elam ami v'amin, and v'shamru, if those two, they go hand in hand together. If you say v'shamru, you say Baruch Hashem la'elam. You don't say Baruch Hashem la'elam, you say either both or none. So there's a bunch of that argument in halacha if you say it. So the Alter Rebbe holds that we don't say it. So if so, why is v'shamru in the Siddur? So there's a story, the Alter Rebbe was a mechutin with Rabbi Yitzchak Abaditchev. Rabbi Yitzchak Abaditchev, the Alter Rebbe's grandchild married Rabbi Yitzchak Abaditchev, his grandchild. So their grandchildren married each other. So they're mechutanim, as it's called. So the story is told that the Abaditchev was once with the Alter Rebbe, and he said to him, why don't you say v'shamru? It's known that when the Jews say v'shamru, the malachim dance in the heaven. There's like a party. In the heaven, the malachim have a yirid. It's like a marketplace in the heaven from the Jews saying v'shamru. So the Alter Rebbe said to him, you don't have to dance at all chasanas. You don't have to dance at all weddings. So the Alter Rebbe said like this, my chassidim are not going to say it, but in honor of you, I'll put it into the Siddur. But my chassidim are not going to say it. So that's why v'shamru is in the Siddur, even though we don't say it. And Baruch Hashem la'elam amin v'amin is not in the Siddur, and we taka don't say it. So we don't say either of them. So it's a bunch of the halachic issue. If it's considered a separation, it's not considered a separate. What did you want?
What's the justification for some union that they do away with the chazara?
They don't do away with the chazara. What they do is what's called in Yiddish a halachic kedusha. What they do is they don't have everybody daven Shemona Esrei and then repeat it like normal. They would start, right away a guy would start until Kedusha, and then everybody says Kedusha together, and then they all daven quietly. So the reason for that is, in the Shulchan Aruch it says if it's getting very, very late, you could do that. But L'Peil, the reason why people do it, seriously off the record, 4-letter word, L-A-Z-Y. That's the real reason. They're lazy, or they couldn't be bothered to have a repetition of Shemona Esrei, because in many people's mind, a repetition of Shemona Esrei is a waste of time. You could be learning, you could be, listen to the shots. Let me finish. So it's a bullshit in their mind. So you can get away with it, so let's get away with it. You know what I mean? That's the... That I'm telling you, that's the reality of it.
No, it's just that they, for some congregants, it's too much time of repeating it. So they're saying it's waste of time repeating the same thing. And also I thought...
But you know what's interesting?
Competent.
Yeah, let me just say a point. But what's interesting, the same people that are rushed, that they can't listen to a whole repetition, will afterwards stick around drinking coffee for 20 minutes and hacking a Chinese.
Some yes, but some really it's too much, and they just want to be very inclusive and bringing out.
Chazaris and Shots takes 5 minutes.
Coming to synagogue because it's too long.
It's 5 minutes. It's not that long.
Yeah.
It's not repetition of Yom Kippur or Rosh Hashanah. You know what I mean? It's 5 minutes. What? Yeah, before Baruch Hu, it says in the Siddur, it's like 4 lines. It's a mini Baruch Hu. It's a continuation of Kegavna and the Zohar. Kegavna that we say is actually a piece of Zohar. And then after Vampanir we say it then. So then if you daven a minyan, the Chazan says Kaddish and you say Baruch Hu. But in the Zohar, it continues also part of the Zohar that basically also says Baruch Hashem Baruch Hashem but not as a davar shebekadusha that you need 10 or whatever. It's part of the Zohar, so you're reading Zohar. So therefore, in the Siddur, and that's what you're supposed to do. If you're not davening with a minyan, you're supposed to say what?
Anytime or only Shabbat?
No, only Shabbos, only Friday night. You say v'leimat. So to have the Baruch Hu was a Shaman Veirach, that's it.
You should say Baruch Hu. If you're by yourself. you should say.
Say the-
Not during the week. The minig is only on Friday night. During the week you don't say.
How about the mini repetition after Friday nights? Do we say if somebody praying alone, all the four sections?
You just say Mogen Avis.
Just one hour?
Yeah. In fact, in technical halacha, the minig is not like that, lapel, but technically it's only in a set shul that you do it. If you make a minyan in a hotel Friday night, technically you don't say that, Vayichuli you say, but the mini repetition is only in a basic knesset kavua. Lapel, most people around the world, the minig is, lapel, they do it anyway. But in Shulchan Aruch it says you only do it if there's a minyan kavua. And then, what? What? Yeah. For the same reason. For people, same reason. The repetition in the Amida is for the people that don't know how to daven. Years ago, they didn't have Sidurim, they didn't know how to read, they didn't know how to daven, so the Chazan would repeat the Amida. Might have not, because might have Arvit was optional, and therefore there was no need to go repeat. Good. No.
Today you have one.